Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Assad.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking Decoding Postcode Crime Data, how to assess rental risks in the UK, and tying it back to the wider cost-saver ecosystem, including tools like Postcode Crime Priced Rental Risk Checker and Crime Priced Rental Risk Checker so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in, we are your synthetic hosts. We are great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
Welcome back to the Cost Saver Podcast. Today, we're getting into something that I think, honestly, a lot of people just completely skip over when they're flat hunting: crime data. And with me, as always, is Assad.
Hey, Angela. Yeah, it's one of those topics, isn't it? Everyone's so focused on, what's the monthly rent or how long's my commute? But crime data is genuinely useful for assessing risk, especially right now with how tight the rental market's got.
It really is. I mean, you're locked in for what, 12 months typically? So getting the postcode wrong can actually cost you thousands.
Oh, easily. Like just one burglary in an uninsured flat, you're looking at 2,000 to 3,500 pounds in stolen electronics alone. And then if you're in a high crime postcode, your home contents insurance can add another 150 to 400 quid a year on top. And that's before you even get to the stuff you can't put a number on. Your sleep, your peace of mind.
God, yeah, that's actually quite sobering when you lay it out like that.
It is.
So crime data should be like right up there with school catchments and transport links?
It really should be. But here's the thing. It's also one of the most misunderstood data points. People see a red spot on a map and just go, right, whole neighborhood's dangerous, moving on. Or, and this is the other side, they see a leafy suburb and think, oh, I'm safe here, when actually that area might have a burglary rate twice the national average.
I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Yeah, the truth kinda lives in the middle, as usual. And my top tip, if you're about to view a property, spend 10 minutes checking the street-level crime map for the exact postcode. Not the town, not the borough, the postcode. Because crime patterns can shift dramatically between two streets that are less than half a mile apart.
Wait, really? That much variation?
That much, honestly.
Okay, so where does this data actually come from? Like, who's putting it out there?
Right, so the backbone, for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland anyway, is the police.uk open data service. They publish monthly figures from all 43 territorial police forces. Scotland's separate, they've got their own system through Police Scotland. But police.uk gives you anonymized, street-level snapshots of where crimes were recorded. And it's free, which is that's the key thing.
Okay, and what kind of crimes are we talking about? Are they all sort of equally relevant to someone renting?
No, and that's kind of the whole point. So you'll see about a dozen categories: antisocial behavior, burglary, vehicle crime, violence and sexual offenses, theft from the person, robbery, criminal damage and arson, shoplifting, drugs, public order, bicycle theft, other theft. It's a lot. But here's the thing. 20 incidents of shoplifting near a busy high street, that tells you almost nothing about your personal safety at home. 20 burglaries on your residential street, though.
That's a completely different story.
Flashing red light, exactly.
So not all crime is equal. Got it. And what about the exact location? Does it show like the actual house number where something happened?
Good question. No. So they use what they call snap points. These are fixed points, usually on a street junction or outside a prominent building, and it's to protect victim privacy. But, and this is the bit that catches people out, a single snap point might aggregate crimes from a pretty wide surrounding area. So if your flat's near a pub or a station or a shopping precinct, that one dot could be collecting reports from hundreds of meters away.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's quite misleading if you don't know it.
It really is. So you always have to zoom in and look at the pattern, not just count the dots. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And what about crimes that just never get reported? Is that a big factor?
Massively. So criminologists call it the dark figure of crime. The Crime Survey for England and Wales, run by the ONS, consistently shows that police-recorded figures capture only a fraction of actual incidents. Bicycle theft, low-value theft, antisocial behavior, those are particularly underreported. So a low number on the map doesn't necessarily mean it's quiet. It might just mean people have given up reporting.
That's actually quite grim.
Yeah, and oh, one thing worth flagging, postcodes with transient populations, like student-heavy areas, often show artificially low rates for certain crime types because residents leave before things get reported or followed up. So you want to cross-reference with resident reviews, local Facebook groups, that sort of thing.
Right. So, given all of that, what should a renter actually prioritize when they're looking at this data?
Okay, so for most renters, burglary. That's the big one. It directly hits your belongings, your insurance premiums, your sense of safety. Always check that first. And, this is important, look at it over a rolling 12-month period, not just the latest month. Crime has seasonal patterns. Burglary typically spikes in autumn and winter when evenings are darker. A single quiet month proves nothing.
Go on.
And then property type matters a lot. Ground floor flats, end of terrace houses, properties with side access, they're disproportionately targeted. So if you're viewing a ground floor conversion flat in a postcode with like moderate overall crime, your personal risk could be way higher than the area average suggests.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah, and we had a case study, Sarah from Leeds. She rented a ground floor flat in a postcode with average overall crime. What she missed was that burglary alone was running 60% above the regional average, with a cluster of incidents at ground floor flats on her exact road. 6 weeks after moving in, broken into. Lost 1,800 pounds in belongings, 200-pound insurance excess. 10 minutes with the crime map would have flagged the whole pattern.
That's such a stark example. And I bet she's not the only one.
Not even close.
So, burglary's number one. What else?
If you drive or cycle, vehicle crime and bicycle theft. Vehicle crime includes theft of, theft from, and interference with vehicles. A high vehicle crime postcode will push up your car insurance significantly. You could be looking at 300 pounds extra per year that you just hadn't budgeted for. And bicycle theft clusters around stations, universities, high streets. If you're cycle commuting, check both your home postcode and your destination postcode.
Oh, that's smart. Checking both ends.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Your insurer uses the same postcode data you can see. So always get a home and car insurance quote before signing a tenancy, not after, because by then it's too late, isn't it?
Yeah, you're locked in. Okay, what about violence and antisocial behavior? Because those are the ones that they catch your eye on the map, don't they?
They do. Violence against the person is the category that most alarms people. But, and I keep coming back to this, context is critical. A city center postcode with loads of bars will record dozens of violent incidents a month. Most of those are between strangers at pub closing time. That's very different from violence on a quiet residential street.
Right.
Antisocial behavior, though, that's often the better quality of life indicator, honestly. Persistent ASB, noise complaints, public drinking, intimidation, that wears people down far more than rare but dramatic crimes. If ASB is high and sustained over months, it usually reflects broader neighborhood issues that are worth taking seriously.
Yeah, it's the day-to-day stuff that really grinds you down, isn't it? Not the headline stuff. So, okay, how do you actually build a proper assessment from all of this? Because it sounds like there's a lot of layers.
There are, but it's manageable if you follow a process. So first, pull the 12-month crime totals for the exact postcode broken down by category. Then compare to the local authority average and the England and Wales average. Then check the trend over the past 2 years, rising, falling, stable. Map the snap points to see if incidents are clustering at specific venues or spread across residential streets. Cross-reference with non-crime data, deprivation indices, rental price trends, council tax band distribution. And then, and I think people skip this one, walk the area. Ideally on a weekday evening and a weekend night.
Both?
Both. You get a completely different picture. And ask specific questions of the letting agent. Talk to current or former tenants if you can.
That is thorough. I mean, it's a lot, but it makes sense. Now, you mentioned something about a crime to rent ratio?
Yeah, so, okay, this is kind of interesting. If a postcode has rents 20% below the regional average, but crime rates 40% above, the market has basically already priced in the risk. You're being compensated, in a sense, for accepting a tougher environment. But, and here's the red flag, if a postcode has average rents but elevated crime, that's a problem. Either the market hasn't caught up, or something else like good transport or school catchments is propping up demand despite the issue.
Oh, that's actually a really clever way to think about it. Like, is the discount worth the risk?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
And what about deprivation? Does that always mean high crime? Because I think a lot of people just assume.
Yeah, they do. And look, crime rates do correlate with the Index of Multiple Deprivation. That's published by the Ministry of Housing, Communities, and Local Government. But it's not a hard and fast rule. Many deprived postcodes are perfectly pleasant to live in, particularly on specific streets. And that's often where you find genuinely good value rental stock. Rents 150 to 300 pounds a month below neighboring postcodes for comparable properties.
That's a significant saving.
It is. And this is the bit people miss. Deprived postcodes often have excellent community networks, active residents associations, neighborhood watch schemes. Engaged communities can push local crime figures down remarkably quickly. So before you rule one out based on headline numbers, it's worth digging a bit deeper.
That's actually really reassuring. Okay, let's talk myths. What are the big ones that trip renters up?
Oh, where do I start? Okay, first, cheap postcodes are always dangerous. Just not true. Rental prices are driven by dozens of factors. Transport links, housing stock age, employment patterns. Some of the best value postcodes in the UK are perfectly safe. They just lack a tube station or a fashionable reputation.
Fair enough.
Second, expensive postcodes are always safe. Also wrong. Affluent areas often have higher burglary rates because the targets are more lucrative. Vehicle crime follows the same logic. Rich postcodes attract different criminals, not no criminals.
Wow, okay. I think that one surprises people.
It does. Third, the red dots mean danger right now. Police.uk data is historical, typically published with a delay of about 2 months. A red dot shows what happened, not what's happening. Trends matter way more than any individual month.
And what about you mentioned low reporting earlier. That's a myth too, right? Low numbers meaning it's quiet?
Yeah, that's the fourth one. Low reporting often just means residents don't bother because they've got no confidence anything will be done. So you need corroborating signals. Check local newspaper crime archives. Search Facebook community groups going back a year. Look at Nextdoor posts if they're available. Even Google reviews of nearby pubs and takeaways, people mention safety stuff in there. And you can contact the local Safer Neighborhood team directly if you've got specific concerns.
I love the Google reviews tip. I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what people mention in a 2-star review of a kebab shop.
Okay, so beyond crime, what else should renters be factoring into this?
Energy performance. Seriously, Angela, this one's huge. Older housing stock in cheaper postcodes often means poor insulation and energy bills of 200 to 350 pounds a month in winter. That can completely wipe out whatever you're saving on rent. And then there's flood risk, transport reliability, the financial health of the letting agent or landlord. All of it feeds into the full picture.
Energy costs are just a lot right now. Okay, so what specific questions should people be asking before they sign that tenancy agreement?
Right, so ask if the property's been burgled or had a break-in attempt in the past 5 years. Ask what security measures are fitted and whether the landlord will upgrade them. Is it in a neighborhood watch area?
Have there been ASB complaints against the property or immediate neighbors? Can they give you the Energy Performance Certificate rating and recent utility bill estimates? And this is a good one. Is the area subject to selective licensing? Because that often signals the council has flagged local housing issues.
And here's the crucial bit, right? They don't have to tell you this stuff voluntarily.
No, letting agents are not legally required to disclose crime history unless you ask directly in writing. So put it in an email. Keep the reply. It becomes evidence if you ever need to challenge a deposit deduction or end a tenancy early.
That is such a critical tip. Okay, so Assad, at some point you've got to stop researching and actually make a decision. How do you draw the line?
Yeah, analysis paralysis is real. So a sensible rule of thumb, if the postcode shows crime rates more than 50% above the regional average across multiple categories and the rental discount is less than 15%, walk away. The maths just doesn't work.
Simple as that?
Simple as that. But if the discount is larger, or if only one crime type is elevated and it doesn't match your lifestyle, it could be a perfectly sensible choice. Like a non-driver in a vehicle crime hotspot is barely affected. A cyclist in a bicycle theft hotspot, much more exposed. It's about personalizing the risk to your actual life.
And because I think some people might worry about this, checking crime data doesn't leave any kind of record or affect your credit score or anything?
No, nothing. Landlords can't see that you've researched their postcode. And honestly, it's entirely reasonable to ask probing questions before signing, even for a property you love. The best letting agents expect it.
Good. That's reassuring.
And the final test is always the physical one. Walk the street, look at the front doors, the windows, the state of the pavements, the lighting, the parked cars. Data tells you what was recorded. Your own eyes tell you what's actually there today.
I love that. Data plus your own eyes. Okay, so let me try and pull this together for everyone. When you're looking at postcode crime data, the raw numbers on their own can mislead. What actually matters is the crime type breakdown, the trend direction over time, and how it compares to local and national averages. Layer that with the crime to rent ratio, energy costs, your own lifestyle and risk profile, and you've got something you can actually make a decision on. Check the exact postcode, not the borough.
Couldn't have said it better.
Well, you kind of did. I just stole your lines. Thanks, Assad. And thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time.
Cheers, everyone.
Quick side note, this guide connects with other cost-saver blogs, especially postcode myths versus facts for local services, cutting your winter energy bills, and the return on home insulation.
Exactly. And reading those together helps you connect the dots across your household budget, not just this one topic in isolation.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like Postcode Crime Priced Rental Risk Checker and Crime Priced Rental Risk Checker right after this episode.
Primary sources used here include police.uk Open Data Service and Office for National Statistics, so you can verify the data yourself and stay evidence-led.
That wraps this cost-saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone who could put these ideas to work this week.
Your next step is simple. Try Postcode Crime Priced Rental Risk Checker, then read Postcode Myths versus Facts for Local Services and use them together to take action today.